All right, thanks, Janice. Really appreciate that. Yes, the future is now. I think I've said that phrase over a number of years. Of course, the future is always now, right? We're always on the cusp of whatever, wherever we happen to be, and there's been a number of kind of evolutions and revolutions, at least in my time in industry and my time as an adult. And certainly where we're at now is no different, other than it just feels more intense. It feels faster. The changes seem to impact us on more levels than perhaps what I've experienced in the past. And so, change is constant, but the rate and pace of change seems to be something that feels a little bit different to me now. So I've got a few slides just to give some examples of some of the things that we've been thinking about and doing at ExxonMobil. Some of these things you've heard about, maybe some of you haven't, but they're all things that we've talked about publicly, so I'm not giving any secrets away, so don't get too excited. One of the things I did want to mention, since we're talking about the futures now, is to kind of do a little callback to some of the earlier discussions that we're particularly excited about. For those that weren't able to attend any of the open process automation discussions, one of the things that we reached a milestone at the end of last year is putting out the very first open process automation system on a live process at one of our operating units in Baton Rouge. That's very exciting. This is something that we've been talking about for at least a decade and been thinking about longer. So it's been a long time coming, trying to get to the point where we've put an open and interoperable DCS, distributed control system, on a real process. So nothing speaks the future is now to me more than that. That is a real inflection point. It's really a change in how we think about those systems, about the business model around those systems, and moreover, what those systems are capable of doing. They're bringing a number of capabilities that we've seen deployed and exploited in the IT world down into the OT or the manufacturing space. So we're just at the cusp of this. The future is now, and it's just the beginning of a journey there. So I just wanted to reach out and mention that. Okay, so these slides, applying digital technologies to drive energy innovation. So again, I'm going to give you some examples of things that we've been talking about. This is really meant to cause some conversation. So hopefully, as you're seeing some of this, you'll get some questions, and it can inspire some commentary and discussion and dialogue about the future. This is kind of a high-level topic, right? So this is sort of the, wow, let's think blue sky. What's the future look like since it's now? Okay. So AI, so Janice mentioned AI several times, and AI is certainly a technology that we are exploiting and continue to get better at. AI has been around for a long, long time, but it's only seen a really healthy resurgence based on the availability of compute power in recent years. And we're really able to bring it to bear in ways that we really haven't been able to before. So certainly it's exciting to talk about AI. One of the things that we've brought about is leveraging some AI techniques to help us with our drilling operations. We've leveraged some of these in Guyana to do autonomous drilling, automate that process, using it to provide some feedback to the operators who are letting it go for the most part, ready to grab the controls if they need to, but doing more autonomous stuff than we've done in the past. And that's bringing some benefits in our upstream space. Sticking with upstream, when I think about our operations in the Permian, this is West Texas and New Mexico, vast expanses of land with wellheads and tank batteries, all of which are doing things and have automation associated with them, and there's data that comes from all of that. And this is across many square miles of land. And so being able to pull that data up together and look at it holistically is really helping us improve the efficiency of operations out there. So that's something that we've done in the last few years, is to really pull all that together, and allows us to have centralized approaches for monitoring operations in the Permian and improving and optimizing those operations as well. Similarly, in our downstream segments, we've done a lot to bring data and centralize it in what we call a data lake, or a manufacturing data lake. This has enabled us to do a number of things, including, again, doing operations monitoring, process monitoring, bringing about model-based predictive capabilities, leveraging this data from centralized technology centers, which is really a different model than what we've had in the past. Normally at our refineries and chem plants, we depended on contact engineers at the site to take a look and be responsible for their units, and spend the requisite amount of time looking on and doing that analysis. With this capability, we're able to offload a lot of that and put it and centralize it. This allows us to, apply best practices across our whole fleet of operating assets. It also allows us to bring to bear levels of efficiency that we could not do in any other way, right? So centralization of workflows like that, of analytics, is really allowing us to leverage the scale of our corporation to become even more competitive. And so this is a very important capability for us. So sometimes it's not all about the analytics, just getting the data together is kind of step one. The analytics, and particularly when you start bringing to bear artificial intelligence and machine learning, sometimes that's icing on the cake. Sometimes there's real value in just the cake. Okay, I'm going to talk about a few technologies that we're applying in our refineries and chemical plants. And this has to do with kind of what you would consider traditional AI, or some applications that you think about when you think about AI, including voice recognition and some other smart technologies that we brought to bear and are starting to scale out. One of those we call cognitive computer vision. And so this is really doing analytics on video feeds to derive information and insights. So one of the ways that we use that is to monitor our flare tips. And where we have flaring, we are looking for any time that there's smoke that's detected. That is a requirement, right? It's part of our environmental requirements to make sure that if smoke is detected in a flare, it gets repressed within a small period of time. And the way that has been managed in the past is we aim a camera at it, a video camera, and there's a screen in the operator's pit that shows the flare stack. And so you're hoping that the operator is going to look at the flare stack to discover that there's smoking, and then inject steam or take whatever else other measures that they need to do to get that taken care of. When you automate that and you leverage AI to then derive a component like opacity, which can be an indicator of smoking in the stack, now you've got an automated way to alert the operator that there's smoke and it needs to be taken care of. You can also take it the next step and close the loop and have the system automatically inject steam once that's detected. So you can see how that's a fairly simple endeavor, but it takes trusting that measurement, understanding it, and hardening it for use in a manufacturing environment, and then being able to scale it across the corporation to capture that. Let me talk to you about Sophia. This is I'm not going to call it an Alexa clone, but when you think about Alexa, and I'm sure that many of you have one of those little things in your home that sometimes gets confused and starts talking to you out of nowhere. It's a similar premise with this concept of Sophia, or essentially an intelligent operations assistant. So this is an AI-based application similar to what you might see with ChatGPT. It's got natural voice processing as a way to provide an input or be able to ask questions It's trained against a corpus of relevant operations data, including process history, process events, these types of things. And so what we're trying to create is an assistant for operations. That could be operators, it could be shift supervisors, et cetera. And so they're able to ask relevant questions, and what you used to do by combing through logs and the like to figure out what's going on, this would ostensibly get you to an answer much faster. So that's the premise behind this. Hello. Oops. Okay, too much. It does stick. Okay. The last one of these types of technologies I'm going to talk about is something that we call Smart Lane. So we have a number of digital technologies that we bring to bear to ensure that we have stable operations. So the basic DMC, regulatory control, supervisory control, model predictive control, all very good at rejecting disturbance and keeping the plant operating in steady state right where it needs to be. Particularly at constraints, that's how we tend to make money, is get the most out of the steel and concrete that we have in the ground. Where we have some other opportunities are in our transient operations. So actions like doing a reactor startup or doing a steam air decoke of a furnace, these types of operations are not steady state. And often our operators are going through procedures to try to get from point A in that process to point B or C or D, depending on how complex that transition is. And what we have found is, hey, some shift teams are more efficient and better at getting through those transitions with less left on table off-spec product that you would normally expect as you're making a transition from point A to point B. So defining a golden path or the best path to get from point A to point B that minimizes those losses and minimizes the time you're in transition are what we aim to capture, and then deliver guidance to the operations team on how to best get from point A to point B. So if you think about this as more or less having an active Waze app on your console that's guiding you and telling you, okay, here's how long it's going to take to get here, make this turn, do this, do that. That's what we're talking about, right? So the old way was more or less, I'll point to some references that I heard earlier around MapQuest. That was kind of the old way, or even the old paper maps, right? That's probably more like it, right? You had a paper procedure, paper maps on how to get there. Then the next best thing was MapQuest, and then Waze came and blew everything away. Much more dynamic, and that's what this is as well. If you get off the path, it knows where you are currently and can then get you back where you need to be. So giving that guidance to the operator. That's what we call Smart Lane. Okay, and then last but not least, for those that have seen some of the presentations earlier on the digital reality ecosystem, I did want to give another nod to that effort. This is also part of another open and interoperable initiative that we're leading in trying to drive the open access to data that's used to create digital twins. So that it can be reused and integrated with other data and create a visual way of working. So things that we've kind of done in the past for decades and decades and decades around turnaround planning or project planning, where we've actually had to go out into the field and take measurements and figure out where the crane was going to go. Once you have your assets digitized, a lot of that stuff can be done much more quickly without having to go out into the field. Really is a time saver for those types of activities. But that's really just scratching the surface. We really think that this type of digital enablement is a game changer for us, and so we've done so much in this space. We've actually created some pretty fancy videos. Michael showed one earlier in the week. I'm going to show a different one. But they're both equally impressive, and I'm just curious how much money we spent on them. But Michael can tell me that later. Okay. Hey, I said it's that good, Michael. Okay, so here's the premise here. You've got an architecture that's open and interoperable. It is not a single vendor's ecosystem, but rather a way to capture this data and be able to store it and be able to use it in a number of different ways that we haven't thought of yet, ways that we have thought of yet. And so there's a lot to it. Let me go to the film. All right, it worked. So how's that for the futures now? Okay. All right, digital reality ecosystem, or DRE. One of the key SMEs is here, Kyle Daughtry. I refer to him as Dr. Dre. So, all right, that's my time. I hope you're gonna look forward to the discussion and the questions later. Thanks.